Hello, my name is Josh Walsh, and I am currently a junior GIS major taking Geography 280 Cartography, and this is my 2020 fall semester final project. And I'm looking at the corn and soybean amounts that are planted and yielded in Minnesota in the year 2017. So, to start, Minnesota is one of the United States leaders in agriculture, and that's especially true for both corn and soybeans. FarmFlavor.com reports that Minnesota boasts over 74,542 farms, and the entire industry is worth about $75 billion. FarmFlavor also reports that Minnesota is one of the top states for exporting crops, with both corn and soybeans being greatest international exports. According to mm.gov, the 2002 corn was at 18% and soybeans were at 17.8% of the total crop growth in Minnesota. The United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, reports that in 2019 the amount of corn planted in Minnesota was about 8 million acres and soybeans was about 6.9 million acres. The USDA also reports that 1.26 billion bushels of corn for grain and 8.74 billion tons of corn for silage were harvested in 2019 in Minnesota. The number of soybeans that were harvested in 2019 was 298 million bushels, and that's about 44 bushels per acre. According to Kelly Ash of the Center for Rural Policy and Development, agriculture is Minnesota's largest player in terms of the economy, and agriculture, having been down recently, has hurt the economy of Minnesota. It's incredibly important to rural communities that are struggling to keep their economies afloat. Ash writes that from 2013 to 2018, the sales from agriculture in Minnesota have gone down a staggering 20%. This is also impacting Minnesota's greater economy by having less jobs and less money for the state overall as a whole. Overall, agriculture is important in Minnesota, especially for both corn and soybeans. These statistics prove just how important agriculture is, particularly crop growth in Minnesota. So this begs the question, what can be done? So for this project, there was 4 maps created, and I chose corn and soybeans because, as mentioned before, they are the greatest amount grown, and they gave a good baseline for Minnesota crop growth. So I looked at crops that were planted and their yields in bushels per acre. Planting was in acres. Now for discrepancies where there's a lot of crops planted but not as much yields, and you'll see how that played out. And I used data from the United States Department of Agriculture, and the software I used was ArcGIS Pro, and then I used the natural breaks choropleth map. I made 4 of those, and then each with 5 classes to give natural breaks I used because it gave the greatest difference and was just the best scheme, and 5 classes gave a good difference. I also used a white to green color scheme to kind of mimic the color of crops, and where white is least amount of crops grown, least amount of yield, and green is the most. So now move on to the maps. So here you can see this is corn planted. You can see most of it's planted in the south and in the west. But if we move over here to the yield, there's quite a bit of yield more towards the eastern part where there's not as much planted. You can see maybe some of these counties over here in the western part that have planted more but have less yields can maybe look over here to see what they can do to increase efficiency and make their greater yields to help Minnesota's economy. Similarly, for soybeans, you can see up here in the northwestern portion of Minnesota, there's quite a bit of soybeans planted compared to anywhere else in Minnesota. But then you look over at the amount of yield in bushels per acre, and I mean this is 2017, might be different in the future, but so you can see less yields. They can look more to places that planted less down here in the southern portion, maybe see what happened. I mean, there could be other factors like less sunlight, less time to grow because it's more northern, or just worse soils. I don't know, but this is perhaps can provide some insight in the future. I would like to get better data for some of these areas over here in the northwest or northeast that doesn't have as much data because they don't plant as much, but that could be something I could look at in the future. And then here are my sources. All right, that's it.